A $495 million black hole sub, sitting in a fortress of nets, booms, and seabed sonar, gone. How do you punch through a port wrapped in an iron cage and kill a kilo at the pier? This is the story of physics used as a weapon, 12 surface drones turning the harbor into noise, a bubble screen blinding sonar, and 3 silent swimmers slipping through a gap the sea itself opened. We'll map every move, from AP-8's eyes in the sky and a Starlink-fed buoy, to the final strike on the stern that made steel breathe water. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. How do you hide a billion-dollar harbor behind steel and sensors and still leave a door open? You don't. The gap starts where the sea moves and metal does not.
Ukraine says it has hit a Russian Kilo-class submarine with underwater drones in the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk.
Develop underwater sea baby kind of sub drones and go after Ukrainian assets with it. Yes.
Security Service SPU says its subsea baby drones critically damaged the 363.3 Varshavyanka boat, effectively putting it out of action.
Novorossiysk ran a layered defense built to trap threats at distance. Outer booms and anti-sub nets formed a hard line. Seabed sonar listened across channels and berths. Onshore anti-sub posts watched the approaches. Patrol craft looped on set routes, ready to swarm any blip that crossed the threshold. On paper, it bottled the water. In calm seas, it bit hard. But fixed systems breed habits. Tides push and pull. Swell tilts the booms, then settles. Harbor traffic adds constant churn. Doctrine expects steady geometry and stable baselines. The sea doesn't sign that contract. When water shifts, signals smear, ranges shorten, and the clean math of detection turns into guesswork. Start at the nets. They meet the bottom unevenly. Wave action makes the floats rise and drop. Silt moves and piles in one cove, then slips away at the channel lip. Anchors stretch and sag under load, then relax when the swell turns. That creates microgaps, not meters wide, not for long, just enough for minutes, then gone. Like a chain link fence in a flood, the fence stays tight at the posts, but the ground under it scours out, and water finds a new path before the crew can even see the change. Sonar loves quiet water. A working port gives the opposite. Tugs growl, then idle, then surge. Aerators fizz at the pier line.
The submarine, worth up to 340 million euros, carried Caliber cruise missiles used to strike Ukrainian cities and energy infrastructure.
I think they're going to have to get out of the Black Sea entirely into the Caspian Sea if they hope not to have this happen again.
Kyiv says the attack is the first time underwater strike drones have successfully targeted a submarine of this class.
Propwash tears pockets of air into the water column. Cavitation rattles and pops as small screws bite and slip. All of that stacks into a high-noise floor that swallows weak echoes. A contact that would stand out offshore melts into the blur inside the breakwater. Operators turn up gain and pull filters, but every tweak trades one kind of loss for another. Add the black hole factor. A kilo's quieting is tuned to beat open ocean hunts. In port, that flips the job. The defenders must tease out a subtle, low-speed signature from an urban ocean soundscape that won't sit still.
Ukrainian officials add that the strike is part of a wider maritime campaign that has already pushed Russian vessels out of Sevastopol Bay towards Novorossiysk.
Russian defense did not react before the strike. They didn't see it coming. So a sub was attacked by a drone sub. A Russian sub was just hit by and badly damaged, maybe destroyed, by a Ukrainian drone.
You're not hunting a loud intruder. You're hunting a whisper in a crowd that won't stop shouting. That's where surface drones change roles. They're not only shaped charges on skiffs. They are noise. 12 hulls scribe wakes and throw bubbles. Their motors add buzz, their wakes shear layers, their hits punch gas into the water. Patrol boats respond and add more prop wash, more cavitation, more churn. The harbor's acoustic fog thickens. Screens bloom with speckle and streaks. The wrong vectors light up. Operators chase bright ghosts while the dim tracks downrank themselves into the margins. Sensors didn't fail alone. Human patterns locked in. Patrol loops tightened around the obvious. Onshore posts watched surface angles. Arrays switched modes to handle the surge of targets. That shift opened lateral seams.
A Ukrainian drone hit a Russian sub in port in Novorossiysk. The improved Kilo-class diesel-electric submarine that was docked in Novorossiysk was hit near the engine room today in today's strike. For the first time in history, underwater drones, Sub-Sea Baby, blew up a Russian submarine.
Slow, low-profile objects slid into the dead ground between beams and below the thresholds the software learned to ignore. So the iron cage wasn't ripped apart first. It was numbed. It bent. The fixed wall needed still water, predictable loads, and a clean signal map. A live harbor gives none of that. The defense architecture kept its shape, but the medium broke the promise. The sea took the line, softened the edges, and turned the kill zone inside out. If the walls could be numbed, the next move was simple. Stop fighting the sensors head-on. Move through the water the way sound hates to travel. Follow the bends, hold the shadow, ride the layers that curve pressure and hide motion, and make the harbor's own rhythms carry you to the target's stern. What looks like chaos on the surface is a map underwater.
And remember, the type of drone that it wasn't a Sea Baby drone on the surface. It's a Sub-Sea Baby drone. Ukraine just made naval warfare history. Ukraine has been continually making naval warfare history. Sub-drones, drones in the air.
The trick is to ride the path sound avoids and let the harbor hide you. The plan splits into 3 nodes. One undersea drone runs as ambient noise, low power and close to the pier line, adding a steady hum that blends with aerators and small craft. A second rides a thermal saline duct leaking from city discharge, where warmer, brackish water slides along the bottom and refracts sound away. The third glues itself to a tugboat's acoustic shadow, keeping station within the dead zone formed by that hull, prop wash, and bubbles. Harbor sonar wants straight-line geometry. It wants returns that fit a neat ray path from ping to target to receiver. Thermal layers and brackish plumes don't care. They bend and scatter energy. A slow, electric mover inside that bend looks smaller than it is, later than it is, and sometimes not there at all. Here's the physics in plain terms. Warm water over cold sets a lid. Salter water under fresher water sets a slope. At each boundary, sound speed changes, so a beam curves, like light through glass.
So this is kind of official footage being put out by Ukraine. As a result of the explosion, the submarine suffered critical damage.
Those curves, plus a thin boundary layer right along the seafloor and hulls, create ducts, low-loss corridors where sound rides along the layer and avoids crossing it, which means a target tucked inside the duct reflects less energy back to the listening head, at worse angles, and at ranges the operator doesn't expect. Up top, 12 surface drones do the dirty work on attention. They carve bubble screens with their wakes. Their props spit cavitation. Micro-explosions pop to seed sediment clouds. Each effect blooms a bright decoy on the scopes and forces mode shifts. Operators zoom in, then out. They change threshold, gain, pulse length. Every adjustment costs awareness somewhere else. Meanwhile, external eyes scan. A high-altitude maritime patrol aircraft class like a P-8 can sweep broad water and cue interest zones without fixing targets to within meters. A relay buoy sits low and dumb, just a pipe for short bursts of targeting cues. That keeps the attack stack aligned without overexposing who is where. The timing window opens when patrol craft surge to the surface fight. They converge. Their sonars overlap forward and leave slivers off the beam. Lateral gaps open between sectors. Software shifts to prioritize fast, high-amplitude spikes. Slow tracks downrank themselves, tagged as harbor clutter. That is when the duct runner slides past the net sag point while the Shadow Rider drafts the tug on its return leg. Cat and mouse turns messy. A defender ROV pushes out to check a suspected track, but it hits the edge of a sediment cloud seeded by a small underwater blast. Active sonar goes nearsighted in that brown water. Range shortens. Image smears. The intercept stalls while the operator clears the field of view. Seconds matter here. The third drone uses that pocket to cross the last lane. The strike is surgical, not cinematic. The attacker sets on the stern. A Kilo's weak spots live there. Prop shaft, rudder stock, stern tube seals. An underwater blast at that point couples energy into shafts and bearings, then hammers the seals. Water is dense. It drives the pressure wave hard into metal, then into gaps that lead straight into the electric spaces. Seawater enters, meets heat and live systems, and turns damage into failure. The shaft can bend. The seals can tear. The rudder can jam. The hull might stay afloat, but the sub is done as a weapon. The blast is not the end. The sea moves inside. Salt and heat start their own war. Pumps fight head pressure. Cables wick brine. Panels short. Bering seas as grit and water eat the oil film. The hull breathes water, one compartment at a time. Fixed walls fail when the battlefield is water. Layers, bubbles, and blind angles turn a fortified pier into a kill zone. The map is fluid. The rules shift with tide and traffic. Steel can't hold that line. If you want hard looks at how cheap tools crack expensive armor, subscribe and tell me what to dissect next. Nets, sonar, or drones, comment your choice below. We'll test claims. We'll break down effects. You'll see what holds under stress. Modern ASW moves toward adaptable, networked hunters, not static fences. Subscribe and join a community that seeks to understand the realities of modern conflict.